Hello, it's Vanilla from Above Beyond Coaching, and today I'm going to talk about limiting beliefs and limiting decisions, which are what come from having limiting beliefs. So why would you want to know about them? Let me ask you a few questions. Do you stop yourself from doing things because you're afraid you'll fail? Or do you not ask because you're afraid you won't get? Or do you put yourself down and say things like, oh, I'm so stupid, oh, I'm so rubbish, I'm incapable, I'm so crap, I never get it right, I always get it wrong? And do you not do things, and you won't try to do things or won't even start doing something because you decide you can't do it even before you try? So these are all examples of limiting beliefs and limiting decisions that come off limiting beliefs. Our limiting beliefs are generally centred around our emotions, our relationships, and our dreams. They're about how we feel about ourselves, often in relation to others. So we think we're not worthy, we don't deserve, we're not good enough. And these, as I said, lead to limiting decisions like, oh, I can't wear that, I'm too fat. Oh, I can't learn that because I'm too old. There's no point in trying, as I might fail, so there's no point in having a go, and I don't want to look stupid. Or, oh, I know, for example, public speaking, because that's the number 2 thing that people are afraid of, it seems. I won't do public speaking because I'll forget my words and I'll look stupid, I'll be humiliated. Or I won't ask that person out because they might say no and I'll feel rejected. So limiting beliefs are all identity statements. I am, and generally, or I'm not, and they're generally negative things. They are negative things about ourselves. So how do we get them? Well, as human beings, we're wired to learn from negative experiences, and the reason that that's very useful is because ultimately it protects us, it stops us from getting hurt. It keeps us away from danger. And it keeps us alive. So really they do start from a good place and a good intention. So our unconscious mind is actually trying to protect us from experiences that we don't have. From experiences that we don't want to have. So they're also imposed by our family and teachers and even society. So the rules that are around us, and they tell us how we should behave and what's right to do. And if we don't fit into that, then we can start to feel bad about ourselves, especially when we're younger and we're far more impressionable and we want to please. Also, limiting beliefs can come from or we use limiting beliefs and limiting decisions to excuse ourselves from doing things, to excuse ourselves from ways that we think that we've failed in some way about something, and we use them to justify and abdicate our responsibility in the situation. And limiting beliefs are fear-driven. They come from our deep need for acceptance, for love, and for belonging. Because we don't want criticism, and we don't want rejection, and we don't want ridicule. So in reality, as human beings, we err on the side of perceived danger, and often this danger isn't real, and we interpret the facts incorrectly. So we have an experience, and what we do is every time we have that experience, we generalize it and we store it in our memory. And so we can perceive something as more that's going to mean that we have to put ourselves on the line, we have to expose ourselves, and it stops us from doing things because we don't want to be rejected, we don't want criticism, and we don't want to be ridiculed. So how do you overcome them? How do you overcome them? Because often our limiting beliefs are really quite deeply buried in our unconscious mind. And so one way to do it is to think about Think about a time when you've limited your opportunities, when you've kind of said, I can't do that, or I don't even want to try, and you've stopped yourself from doing something. And be honest with yourself and then think about, why did you do that? What was your belief that led you to thinking like this? And then when you've got that belief, dig a bit further down, even further, and think, what was the belief that led to that belief? And eventually you'll come to your limiting belief. And quite often this is around, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve, I'm not good enough. And also you can think about, what are you frightened of? What things scare you? Because those things are often things that will limit you as well. So I remember that when I used to do art, I'd never show my art to anyone. And the same when I used to play the piano, I'd never play the piano to anyone because I always thought that I would go wrong and that really I wasn't very good. My work wasn't good. I think I had massive bit of a perfectionist syndrome. And the other thing is perhaps not doing these videos, putting myself out there because no one would understand me because I'd just be rambling on. So yeah, I do hope that I am making sense in what I'm talking about. So then the next thing to think about when you've identified your limiting belief, like I'm not good enough, is to think about, when did this come about? When did the first time, what experiences have you had in the past? Perhaps, for example, for me, it was when my work was criticised by people, my artwork was criticised by my teachers. I was told that I'd never be a designer because my work wasn't this, that and the other. So I stopped, I didn't even bother trying. Also, in experiences when I've had at school, when I've talked about things and people have told me I'm talking an absolute load of rubbish. So a lot of our limiting beliefs do actually come from childhood. So once you've recognised them, recognised your belief, also don't give yourself a really hard time about it. Don't beat yourself up about it. Recognise that it's about your body, your person, your unconscious mind is, it comes from a good place. The intention is good. The intention is to protect you, to look after you. And so thank yourself, thank your unconscious mind for looking after you. And then you need to start thinking about, okay, what's an enabling belief that I can replace this limiting belief with? So you need to then condition yourself to change your thinking. For example, if it was to be speaking in public, it could be, rather than I can't speak in public, don't have to go directly to I can speak in public. You can go to I can learn to speak in public, because you're not going to be a brilliant public speaker immediately, world class straight away. Well, you might be, you just never know. But the reality is it takes practice. And so we need to condition our new enabling belief. So for example, I'm worthy as opposed to I'm not worthy. And then find things that kind of scaffold that. Find evidence that supports that belief. So I'm worthy as I've got family all around me who love me unconditionally. I've got loads of friends. And I've got loads of a support network. So therefore I am worthy. I deserve success. I've worked hard rather than I don't deserve. And then once you've got that enabling belief, you could also start to act as if. Act in that way, because what you've got to do is you've got to condition, as I said, you've got to condition that new enabling belief until it becomes stronger than the limiting belief, and until your neural pathway for the enabling belief gets stronger and stronger. And another way you can do that is visualize yourself doing that enabling belief, doing the things that are going to support it. Because again, the unconscious mind can't tell the difference between something that is strongly visualized and something that actually happens in real life, which is a brilliant thing, really brilliant thing. And then once you've started doing it, keep practicing and keep practicing. And reinforce it and look for evidence to support that enabling belief, as opposed to looking for evidence to support that old limiting belief. So yeah, that's all from me on limiting beliefs. I hope that has been informative, and you can now go away and think of an area, a limiting belief that you might have, or limiting decisions that you make that you can turn around to enable you to expand your opportunities in life. So thank you for listening, and that's me. I always forget who I am at the end. So yeah, that's me, Fenella, from Above Beyond Coaching. Goodbye.